250 years ago, America declared freedom. Then it built highways, V8 engines, skyscrapers, aircraft carriers, and put a flag on the moon. It was loud, ambitious, slightly insane, and somehow it worked.
As I see my two beautiful sons sitting there, I think I'm going to give one to myself, one to them, and we'll have a threesome, okay?
And today, the leader of the free world tries to honor American courage and accidentally invents a sentence that should be illegal near a microphone.
Fortunately, I'm Dr. Trump, and I have a treatment plan.
Perfect, because after 250 years, America's diagnosis is obvious. Too much politics, not enough horsepower. So, here are the 10 cars that defined American freedom. So, let's kick things off at number 10, the Chevrolet Suburban. The Chevrolet Suburban isn't just a car. It's a rolling declaration that freedom is measured in gallons of fuel, the width of the road, and the amount of stuff you can throw in the back. And if you need proof that this thing has character, just look at Tony Soprano. In The Sopranos, his brown Suburban looked less like a family SUV and more like a mobile office for handling very unofficial business. It's the perfect car for a man who says, "I love my family," but still keeps the windows tinted, just in case. The Suburban is American freedom in its purest form, huge, practical, and completely innocent, until you ask what's in the trunk. At number 9, we have a car for which speed was never the main priority. Sometimes it was simply about making sure everyone within a 3-mile radius knew you'd just arrived. The 1959 Cadillac Eldorado wasn't designed with restraint in mind. It had tail fins the size of aircraft wings and so much chrome it looked like paint was just an optional extra. Its styling looked as if Detroit had hired a rocket scientist after one too many martinis. It wasn't subtle, it wasn't sensible. It was America at the height of its post-war confidence, convinced that the future would be bigger, shinier, and powered by an even bigger V8. Driving an Eldorado wasn't just transportation, it was a public declaration that optimism had finally found 4 wheels. So why only number 9? Because despite all its glamour, the Eldorado represented freedom mainly for those who could actually afford it. It was a rolling monument to American excess, but not a car that transformed the lives of millions of ordinary Americans. It celebrated freedom brilliantly. It just didn't create it. At number 8, we have a car that treated pavements more like a suggestion than a requirement. The Jeep Wrangler YJ was the spiritual successor to the military Willys, but instead of winning wars, it helped Americans escape everyday life. Removable doors, a removable roof, and 4-wheel drive made the line between the road and the wilderness almost disappear. It was the kind of vehicle for people who answered the question, "Where does this road lead?" with, "Let's find out." So why only number 8? Because the Wrangler offered freedom mainly beyond the pavement. It became an icon of adventure, but it didn't change the lives of millions of Americans the way the cars higher on this list did. At number 7, we have the car that proved Americans could build more than just giant land yachts. They could build a true sports car. The 1963 Chevrolet Corvette Stingray looked like it wanted to challenge all of Europe to a duel. Its iconic split rear window, long hood, and powerful V8 engines turned it into one of the greatest icons of American motoring. For the first time, Europe had to admit that America had built a sports car that simply couldn't be ignored, and the sound of its V8 was more American than the national anthem before a baseball game. It wasn't built to be sensible, it was built to deliver excitement, and it did that brilliantly. The Corvette takes 7th place because freedom sounds great, but it costs a lot more than the average American paycheck. It was the car of dreams, not the car of America. At number 6, we have a German car. Yes, I know. A ranking about American freedom, and here comes a Volkswagen. It sounds like a bad joke, but history loves this kind of irony. The Volkswagen T1 microbus arrived in America as nothing more than a humble delivery van, but it ended up becoming the symbol of a generation that decided to stop listening to everyone else. Hippies, surfers, musicians, and everyone who believed that a suit, a 9-to-5 job, and a mortgage weren't the only way to live, turned it into a rolling definition of freedom. So why only number 6? Because while it became an icon of American counterculture and personal freedom, it represented just one generation. It inspired people to live life on their own terms, but it didn't reshape America as profoundly as the cars in the top 5. At number 5, we have the 1992 to 1997 Ford F-150. This pickup never won beauty contests, and you didn't see it on teenagers' bedroom posters. Instead, it built houses, pulled trailers, carried tools, and helped millions of Americans earn a living. It was the truck driven by farmers, construction workers, small business owners, and the people who literally built America every single day. For many of them, a pickup wasn't a choice, it was a tool for the job. So why number 5? Because the F-150 became a symbol of hard work and independence, but it never inspired the same excitement or shaped American culture as much as the cars in the top 4. It wasn't the car people dreamed about, it was the car that helped them pay for those dreams. In 1964, Pontiac came up with a brilliant and completely irresponsible idea. They took an ordinary family coupe and stuffed a massive V8 under the hood. That's how the GTO was born, the car that practically created the muscle car era. Suddenly, young Americans could afford a car capable of embarrassing machines that cost far more at the traffic lights. From that moment on, only 3 things really mattered: more horsepower, more noise, and more smoke from the rear tyres. So why number 4? Because the GTO changed American car culture forever and kicked off the horsepower wars. It became a symbol of freedom for an entire generation of young drivers. But just wait until you see the cars in the top 3. At number 3, we have the car that proved freedom sometimes has to be delivered to the battlefield first. The 1941 to 1945 Jeep Willys MB wasn't built to shine with chrome or impress anyone with speed. It was built for one simple reason: to go wherever every other vehicle gave up. Mud, sand, mountains, or bombed-out roads made little difference to it. It was simple, lightweight, reliable, and that's exactly why it became one of the most important vehicles of World War II. Generals loved it, soldiers trusted it, and the enemy preferred not to hear it coming. After the war, the Willys came home as a hero and gave birth to an entire family of civilian Jeeps that still symbolize the freedom to go wherever the map ends. So why number 3? Because the Willys didn't just symbolize freedom, it helped win it. It earned its place not only in automotive history, but in world history. The only cars left are the ones that transformed the lives of millions of Americans long after the war had ended. At number 2, we have the car that accomplished something far more important than breaking speed records. It gave ordinary people the freedom to go where, until then, only a privileged few could. When the Ford Model T debuted in 1908, owning a car was a luxury. Just a few years later, thanks to Henry Ford's moving assembly line, it became affordable for millions of Americans. Suddenly, a car was no longer a dream reserved for the wealthy. It became an essential part of everyday life. The Model T fueled the growth of the suburbs, road trip culture, and a way of life that remains at the heart of the American identity. So why only number 2? Because while the Model T put America on wheels and changed history more than almost any other automobile, every car on this list helped shape the nation, from battlefields to highways, from construction sites to Route 66. But only one became the ultimate symbol of freedom, independence, and the American dream. And here it is. 1967 Ford Mustang Fastback. At number 1, we have the car that achieved something no other automobile ever has. It became more American than hamburgers, baseball, and arguing over which V8 sounds the best. The 1967 Ford Mustang Fastback wasn't the fastest, the most expensive, or the most luxurious car on the road, but it was exactly what America needed. A long hood, a roaring V8, rear-wheel drive, and a price that made the dream of owning a sports car attainable for ordinary people. The Mustang didn't promise practicality. It promised that every road could become an adventure. There's a reason it spent decades starring in Hollywood movies, commercials, music videos, and just about every piece of media celebrating the American way of life. Whenever a director wanted to show freedom, there was no need for dialogue. A Mustang simply drove onto the screen. So why number 1? Because some cars make history, while others become legends. The Mustang did both. Even people who know nothing about cars recognize it instantly and understand what it represents. And if one automobile can define a nation's automotive dream for more than 60 years, then it deserves nothing less than the top spot. For more than a century, America created cars that did far more than simply move people from point A to point B. Some carried entire families across the country. Others shone with more chrome than common sense. There were cars that left the pavement behind. Cars that taught Europe a lesson. Hippie symbols of freedom. Pickup trucks that built America. Muscle cars that turned every green light into a race. And machines that put an entire nation on wheels. On the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, it's worth remembering that the history of the United States is not just presidents, wars, and politics. It's also the cars that built cities, powered the economy, shaped the culture, and made American motoring a symbol of freedom recognized around the world. Because few nations have left a mark on automotive history as deep as the United States. Thanks for watching our very first episode. We'll be back soon with more cars, more horsepower, and probably a few opinions that will upset people in the comments. See you next time.